لله الذي لم يتخذ ولدا ولم يكن له شريك في الملك ولم يكن له ولي من الذل وكبره تكبيرا. والحمد لله الذي نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ به من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له. ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له. ونشهد أن محمدا عبد الله ورسوله أرسله الله تعالى بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله وكفى بالله شهيدا. فصلى الله عليه وسلم تسليما كثيرا كثيرا. ثم أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وإن شر الأمور محدثاتها وإن كل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. يقول سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه الكريم بعد أن أقول أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم ينادونهم ألم نكن معكم قالوا بلى ولكنكم فتنتم أنفسكم وتربصتم وارتبتم وغرتكم الأماني حتى جاء أمر الله وغركم بالله الغرور. فاليوم لا يؤخذ منكم فدية ولا من الذين كفروا مأواكم النار هي مولاكم وبئس المصير. اللهم لا تجعلنا من أصحاب النار. آمين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. اللهم ثبتنا عند الموت بلا إله إلا الله. اللهم اجعلنا من الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. آمين يا رب العالمين. There are different kinds of surahs in the Quran. Sometimes there are surahs in the Quran that are grouped together. And sometimes these groupings of surahs was something attributed by the Prophet himself, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and sometimes by the companions. Towards the end of the Quran, there are a group of Madani surahs, famously known as the Musabbihat. These are surahs that begin with declaring the perfection of Allah. And the first of those surahs is actually Surah Al-Hadid, the 57th surah of the Quran, and there's about 10 of them that go in this order, and that each of them declare Allah's perfection in one way or the other. They have something in common. These surahs have something in common. And actually the purpose of my sermon today, the khutbah today, is to actually just share one or two ayat from this surah, from the 57th surah. But first I want to kind of give you a map of what's going on overall in this part of the Quran. Fundamentally what's happening in this part of the Quran and when it was revealed is when the Prophet ﷺ has already moved to Medina. It's been a few years now. It's been a couple of years that they're living in Medina. And at that point in this original community of Muslims that is now living in peaceful circumstances, relatively speaking, other than the threat of war from outside against the Meccans, now a community is establishing inside Medina. And so people have come into Islam not under threat. Like in Mecca, if you became Muslim, you almost had to hide it. And if people found out, you'd get in a lot of trouble. Right? And if they did find out, then you'd be ostracized, might even get beat up, tortured, ridiculed, that sort of thing. But in Medina, when you became Muslim, it wasn't so hard. It wasn't nearly as hard as it used to be back then. So you have a variation of people. There are people that have come into Islam after sometimes literally paying with blood, sometimes making all kinds of sacrifices, and now you have people that have come into Islam that came into it under much easier circumstances. And you know, when you don't pay a heavy price to come into something or to acquire something, then you don't appreciate it as much. It's just natural. Right? If a young man worked really hard to get a car and saved money for a year or two and then bought this rinky-dink old car that's like $1,000 and it barely runs, for him it's a Ferrari. Because he knows the kind of work that went into earning that car. Right? And he's going to get like special hubcaps for it because rims might be too expensive, or he's going to do whatever he can because he put work into this thing. On the flip side of it, you have a teenager who comes from a wealthy family and his dad buys him a new M5, you know, a 2015, 2016 M5. He has no value for it. He could scratch it, hit it up, you know, run over a curb, speed, who cares, that'll get me another one. It's not a big deal. There's no value for it because you didn't sacrifice for it, right? In some sense, if you want to appreciate it, it's same as the case with our faith. When we come into our faith, a lot of times Allah Azza wa Jalla will put us to the test. He'll make us appreciate the price you have to pay for this gift that He's given you, this Iman. It's not cheap. أَمْ حَسِبْتُمْ أَن تَدْخُلُوا الْجَنَّةِ You just think you can just walk into heaven? That's what's going to be the case? No. So now, there are people who haven't yet been tested in Medina. And so as a result, you have people that are a very strong faith because they've paid heavy prices to hold on to their faith. And then you have people that haven't yet been tested. And you have also people that didn't quite understand the gravity of what they've entered into. They've come into Islam, but they don't really understand or have internalized what it means to make sacrifices for Allah, what it means to completely submit yourself to Allah. And so you have this variation of people, all of them calling themselves Muslim, some of them at the highest level of commitment, and some at a very weak level of commitment, some even hypocritical. Some say one thing and do another. All of them basically call themselves the Muslim community of Medina. These surahs, these 10 or so surahs, these musabbihat, they unify in one theme. They address this problem. They address the problem of a community that is suffering from weak faith. Their iman is going down, it's not what it used to be, and now their faith has to be restored. And so in each of these surahs, in one way or the other, Allah restores the faith of a community that's losing its faith, that's weakening overall in its faith. And it needs to be fortified and strengthened. Now that's the overall picture. But what I wanted to highlight today for you in the khutbah is a scene of Judgment Day that is very scary. It's one of the most powerful, shocking scenes of Judgment Day in the entire Quran. Because there are usually in the Quran, on Judgment Day, there are two groups of people. One that are being given good news, the other that's being given bad news, and everybody here knows believers are being given good news, disbelievers are being given bad news. It's pretty simple usually. That is not the case in Surah Al-Hadid. This is unique. It's unique because a group of people are described as hypocrites. Hypocrites are people who claim to have faith in this world, who think even sometimes that they do have faith, only to find out on Judgment Day that their faith was worthless. It didn't mean anything, it didn't count for anything. And that's the shocking scene that's going to be painted in this surah. يَوْمَ يَقُولُ الْمُنَافِقُونَ وَالْمُنَافِقَاتِ لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا انظُرُونَا نَقْتَبِسْ مِن نُورِكُمْ. So let's paint this scene slowly but surely. Allah says that on Judgment Day, in a sense, the implication is that the Day of Judgment, when Judgment begins, there's absolute pitch black darkness. When the scales have been all accounted for, and your accounting is done, and all of your deeds have been completely calculated, and now you've earned Allah's forgiveness, let's say, it's a completely black, dark, pitch black scene, and you have to make your way into heaven. You have to walk over to Jannah. And as you're walking over, of course, in the dark, you need directions, and more importantly, you need to know where you're going, so you need light. يَسْعَى نُورُهُمْ بَيْنَ أَيْدِيهِمْ وَبِأَيْمَانِهِمْ. That's the scene painted in this surah. Light will be coming out of believers from the right in front of them, meaning their chest, and from their right hands. This is important because the light from your heart is the light of your sincere faith. If you truly held on to your faith in this world, it actually gets converted into light on Judgment Day that you can use to see. And on the other hand is the light that comes out of your right hand. This is actually a representation of what you did, your actions. So on the one hand is our faith, and on the other hand is our deeds, what we did on a daily basis, what we chose not to do. How did we hurt someone or did we save someone? Did we speak out and do the right thing or do the wrong thing? All of those things are counted for, and the strength of your deeds and your faith becomes two torches almost that you're now moving with. Some people's light, the Prophet would describe, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, would be so incredible that it would go from one city to another. It's that incredible. It's that like stadium lighting even more. And others is so weak that they can barely see their own feet. So they can only take one step and then kind of look, where am I headed? That's how weak their light is. And it's a horrifying experience, but regardless, people of faith, at least they have light. Now the scene is painted where people are struggling to find their way with whatever light they have. As a group, they're moving forward, and so there's a group of people left behind who, when they get up, they realize they're not among the people who have light with them, even though they were Muslim. They were believers, but they don't have any light. And imagine this scene, you're in the dark, a person's in the dark, far ahead there are people that seem to have light with them, and you don't have any. You're going to call out on them, aren't you? Hey guys, can you help me out here a little? I'm in the dark, I don't have any light. So they say, Unduruna, slow down, wait for us. Naqtabis min nurikum. We can take some of your light. Literally like a path where you're going to take somebody else's torch and find your own way. And then a sound is heard. Qila, irji'u wara'akum faltamisu nura. Go back, go behind yourselves, and go seek out some light. We can't give you any. People that are heading towards Jannah, people that are heading on Judgment Day are so terrified. The day on which a person runs away from their own mother, their own brother, nobody's interested in turning around and looking at anybody else. The only thing they say is, go back, find some light. You can't have any of mine. I barely got something going on over here. So I can't afford to give you anything. People are moving forward. Now, they're not giving up. Of course, even if they don't have light, they can see people who do. So they still try to catch up towards them. And they get closer and closer and closer. And so what happens? فَضُرِبَ بَيْنَهُمْ بِسُورٍ. The only way to translate this is a gigantic wall is dropped between the two of them. A gigantic wall. A sur is like the outer wall of a city. It's not something you can't scale. Like in the modern context, it would be something like the wall of a dam. You know, one of those massive, massive walls is dropped between them. And that's not the point of my khutbah. I just wanted to paint this scene to get to the ayah I want to get to. Now there's a separation. The people who have light are on the safe side of the wall. The people who don't have any light are on the dangerous side of the wall. وَبَاطِنُهُ مِنْ قِبَلِهِ الْعَذَابِ. On the unseen side of it, the back side of it, from behind, punishment is coming. So not only is there a wall, so you can't proceed anymore, hellfire approaches. You know, وَبُرِّزَتِ الْجَحِيمُ لِمَنْ يَرَى. Hellfire manifests itself as though it was hidden before, and it comes out in the open. And these guys have nowhere to run. So now they're scratching on the wall, and they call out. And they say, يُنَادُونَهُمْ. They call the people on the other side of the wall. أَلَمْ نَكُمْ مَعَكُمْ. Weren't we with you? Weren't we with you? And this is a call of desperation. This is what I'd like you to understand. This is the ayah I wanted to talk about today. A conversation happening between people who were all Muslim in this world. They shared the same prayer spaces. They went to the same university. They were colleagues with each other. They were business partners. They were family. They were friends. They were Muslims. And they said salam and wa alaykum salam and all of it. Everything was the same. Except some of them took the light of the faith in their hearts and their deeds seriously, and others didn't. And there was no way to distinguish them until Judgment Day, and now they're separated by a wall, and the guy's cousins on the other side, his friends on the other side, you know, his business partner's on the other side, his colleague is on the other side, and he's calling, weren't we with you? We're supposed to be together, we were together always. And then from the flip side, the side that is safe, a commentary is made. And really today, the point of my khutbah is that commentary. How come a person, being Muslim, ended up on the wrong side of the wall? You and I don't want to be on that side. And so the people who made it safe actually make a comment about how you ended up in this mess. How did you end up here? قَالُوا بَلَى. Of course you were with us. Without a doubt you used to be with us. وَلَكِنَّكُمْ فَتَنْتُمْ أَنفُسَكُمْ وَتَرَبَّصْتُمْ وَارْتَبْتُمْ وَغَرَّتْكُمُ الْأَمَانِي. There's a 4-step process. You guys went down a spiral, 4 steps. And each of those steps led you to a worse step, into a worse step, into a worse step, and that's why you ended up in this hopeless situation. There were 4 mistakes you made in succession. And those are the 4 mistakes I want to talk to you about briefly today. The first of them is فَتَنْتُمْ أَنفُسَكُمْ. Of course you used to be with us, but you kept putting yourselves in trial. You kept putting yourselves, and literally فَتَنْتُمْ أَنفُسَكُمْ could also mean you attacked yourselves, you hurt yourselves. But it means in our context, to make it simple to understand, you kept putting yourselves in situations where your faith would be tested. You know, there are people, let's bring it to our time now, there are people, Muslims, young men and women, that end up in certain parties, certain gatherings, certain situations, and they say, I can handle it, I got this. I know there's a lot of haram going on, but that doesn't affect me. I've got the super iman shield that covers all of it, and none of that contaminates me in any way, shape, or form. Yeah, my friends are pretty messed up. But I just go there to give da'wah to them, you know. I'm just trying to preach to them. I'm just trying to, you know. But it doesn't affect me at all. Yeah, my friends, yo man, the stuff they watch, and the stuff they say, and the stuff they do, and the stuff they smoke, and the stuff they drink, and the places they go, they're messed up. They need my help. I'm just going to help, you know. You kept putting yourself in a situation thinking you're immune, that it doesn't affect you. And it does. Every time you went, it affected you some more, and then some more, and then some more. And your resistance to those evils, those sins, you know, the more you expose yourself to something, the less sensitive to it you become. When you walk into a house and they've been cooking, especially a Pakistani house, it will hit you like a contamination site. But if you've been sitting there for a few hours, it's just oxygen to you now. It's just, if you don't smell it anymore. It's gone. When you keep putting yourself in a bad environment, Over and over again, over and over again. Your sensitivity to this is something bad. This is not something I should be breathing in. This is not something I should be looking at. This is not something I should be a part of. I shouldn't be here right now. That sensitivity starts going away. You guys kept putting yourself in that situation. And then, even if your intentions were good, or even if you didn't do anything wrong, the first criticism is not that you did something wrong. It's that you put yourselves in these testing situations. You put yourselves in these bad environments. You didn't get yourself out of it. You recognize that it's bad, but you didn't do anything about it to change. This was the first problem. فَتَنْتُمْ أَنفُسَكُمْ. But then you realize that this is bad and it's affecting you. And you felt bad after the party as you're driving back. And you felt bad after you're sitting with all your friends and they're smoking away and you're just sitting there just, inhaling the fumes. You're not doing anything yourself. And you were part of this thing and you're driving back, you feel bad. And you feel bad and you say, man, pretty soon I'm not going to hang out with these guys anymore. You're just talking to yourself. And you say, yeah, right now this semester is pretty messed up, but next semester I'm totally, changing my schedule, not being with these guys. Let me just write it out this semester. Let's just a couple more months and then I'm going to be good. وَتَكُونُوا مِنْ بَعْدِهِ قَوْمًا صَالِحِينَ. After this, I'll be good. So you give yourself like a little bit more extra schedule for some more haram activity. And then you say, after that I'm so good after that, watch what happens. This is called tarabbus, procrastination. You recognized there was something wrong, but you weren't willing to make a change today. You wanted to put it off tomorrow, next week, next year, after this, after that. You had some milestone you wanted to reach. You wanted to write it out, finish the partying. It's a lot of fun. Allah will forgive. There's still a few months before Ramadan. Come Ramadan, then I'm going to be solid. From then on, watch, I'm a new person. Or I'm planning on going to Hajj in like a year, so let me just get one more year in of this partying, one more year of this lifestyle, and then I'll fix myself. You give yourself an excuse and you keep putting it off. Guess what? That never comes. It never comes. And who are you and I to think that we have until next Ramadan, or until next week, or until tomorrow? The entire idea of turning back to Allah is a humility that my life is not in my hands. I don't know how long I'm going to be around. And even if you were around, how do you know the consciousness that you have now? At least you feel ashamed. At least you feel bad that you have to change. How do you know your heart's going to feel this way tomorrow? That is a gift from Allah. That guilt you feel is a gift from Allah. A lot of people don't have that gift anymore. They don't even feel bad. They do it and they're proud. Now they embrace it. This was the second problem. The first one, you put yourselves in these problem situations. You surrounded yourself with the wrong kind of company. Then you kept putting it off. Like, I'll change. I know it's bad, but not yet. It's coming, inshallah. And make dua for me, inshallah. Make dua, Allah gives me tawfiq. These are the people who every time they see you, yeah, inshallah, just make dua for me. Why don't you make dua for yourself? Allah will not help you until you help yourself. حَتَّى يُغَيِّرُوا مَا بِأَنفُسِهِمْ. Somebody else going to come make dua for you? Maybe that works in Catholicism. They pray for you and things change. Until you turn back to Allah, nothing changes. People can pray for you all you want. That's not how things change. So now the second problem of procrastination is followed by a third. وَارْتَبْتُمْ. This is where things get really scary. وَارْتَبْتُمْ. You started falling into doubt. You started doubting whether this religion actually is true even. Why do we even follow religion? The problem wasn't that you took a bunch of philosophy courses. The problem wasn't that you watched a bunch of new science, new atheism videos online. That wasn't the problem. The problem started with you being in a certain environment and you not being willing to change. And now that you're putting time off and you're enjoying the partying, you're enjoying the gathering, you're enjoying the fulfillment of your lust, you're addicted to it now Islam actually becomes annoying because it's getting in your way. It's stopping you from doing what you really want to do that you're addicted to now. It makes you feel bad and you don't want to feel bad anymore. You want to feel good about what you're doing. Because all the guys around you, all the girls around you that do all those wrong things feel great. And you feel guilty, and nobody likes feeling guilty. The only thing that's making me feel guilty is this Islam. Well, this Islam must have some problems. So it begins with, I don't know about how the Quran was preserved. or hadith, or I'm not sure if this makes any sense. Why do we believe in God anyway? And these people, I've had thousands of these conversations with young people. They will have one philosophical problem, you solve that, they'll go to another, you'll solve that, they'll go to another, you'll solve that, you go to another, then they come back to the first one, you say, I already solved that one. We already did this, remember? Yeah, but you know what? I don't know, I don't feel like talking. Yeah, exactly, you don't feel like talking. It's not about your philosophical sophistication. Most of these guys don't know much philosophy anyway. And people super impressed with new atheism and science don't know much science. It's all an excuse. For most people, that's an excuse. And some people are philosophically atheists, that's fine. But for most young people, actually the real thing is, when a guy comes to me and says, I have doubts about religion, I say, what's the girl's name? What's her name? How long have you been seeing her? 2 years. That's the reality of it. But then you start doubting your faith. Doubt starts setting in. Of course, shaitan, he'll constantly want to fill your head with doubts. And you know why those doubts are there? Not because you want to strengthen your iman and if my doubts were answered, I'd become a better Muslim. No. Those doubts are there because now you get to be able to live with your sinful lifestyle. That's the benefit of those doubts. You can hide behind those doubts and do whatever you want. That's what it is. This is wartabtum. And then, when doubts go deep enough, you know what happens, right? Human beings are supposed to aspire to things. We're supposed to have goals in life. Allah is giving us in the Quran, guys, it's khutbah. We shouldn't be talking during khutbah. It's okay. What was I saying? Don't correct me. It's khutbah. So, when Allah Azza wa Jalla tells us, after you fell into doubt, then the next problem that comes is with faith. If you don't have doubt, then my hopes are with Allah. My hopes are the sacrifices I go through in this life, the things I don't delve into, the temptations that I fight, Allah will give me better. First of all, Allah will give me a halal way out of it in this world. He'll give me a permissible avenue in this world. For every pleasure that Allah created in this world, He created a permissible avenue. There is not a single pleasure in this life that Allah denied of the human being. When He put those temptations in us, He put them there for a reason, so we can pursue them in the proper fashion. That's the deen. That's this religion. This religion is not about you being forbidden from what you want to do. It's guiding what you want to do so you can do it in a right way, and you don't indulge. Often when I talk to younger children, I talk about the fact that in our religion, for example, anything that gives you pleasure. Let's say for a child it's something simple like toys, or video games, or it's candy. Anything you do in excess, what happens? If you play video games too long, you're going to have a headache. Your eyes are going to start watering. You're going to have serious migraines. If the kid only eats candy and he finishes the entire box of Kit Kats, he's going to have a stomachache. He does something that he wants to do. But if it's not done in balance, and it's not done in the right measure, even the things that give you pleasure will give you pain. That's the reality of it. Our religion is about limiting what will give you pleasure, giving it in the amount and in the way that will not cause you pain. Allah wants your life to be better. He doesn't want to put you in a prison. He doesn't want to deprive you. Shaitan comes and says, this Islam, it deprives you from everything. It doesn't. يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ لِيُخَفِّفَ عَنْكُمْ. Allah intends to lighten your burden. He wants to make your life easy for you. That's what Allah says Himself. It's not everything in this religion is haram. It's not like that. That's the false picture Shaitan paints in your head. So now, after all of this, your hopes are no longer with Allah. Your hopes are not in heaven. Your fears are not of hellfire. You're not worried about standing in front of Allah. You're not worried about making Allah happy. Those hopes are gone because a person has fallen into doubt. Well, if those hopes go away, when hope in Allah goes away, the only hopes left are the ones that exist in this world. So a person is hoping they can look better, they can feel better, they can get more pleasure, they can get more money, they can get more material things. Their hopes are the next car, their hopes are the next big screen TV, their hopes are the next vacation, their hopes are that girl or that guy or whatever. Those are the hopes. That's what you run towards. That's what you think about all the time. That's what obsesses your mind. That's all you want to do. I want this and I don't want nothing else. That's what I want. And that's when you get people lined up outside a movie theater for Star Wars like it's passports for Hajj. That's what you get. That's what you get. when you have no hopes in anything else left, and this becomes the ultimate manifestation of pleasure. If I don't see this movie the night that it comes out, something will be missing in my life. Something, my existence won't mean anything anymore. You know? And these people go, and they fulfill those lusts, and they fulfill those desires. And they watch and they realize they're still feeling empty inside. It didn't fulfill them. So they have to go run after something else to fill that emptiness inside. And they run after it, and they get it, and they feel empty again. You have these guys, I have friends from college still that are not Muslim, or that were Muslim but never really took their Islam seriously. We're still friends, we still talk. These guys are at the club every weekend. They get drunk, they get high every weekend. And they're depressed. They're deeply depressed. Man, I was like, how do you feel after you come back from one of those things? I feel like, I can't say in the khutbah. You know, that's what I feel like. But I feel like my life's a prison. These are their words. And so they keep fooling themselves into thinking running after this will somehow bring you something you're looking for, and they can't find it, and they can't find it, and they can't find it. Allah says, وَغَرَّتْكُمُ الْأَمَانِيُّ. False hopes deceived you. You kept running after one false thing to another, to another, to another. Some people drowned themselves in music. Others drowned themselves in video games. Others drowned themselves in drugs and alcohol. Others drowned themselves in the club scene and the party scene and the womanizing and all of it. People drowned themselves in these things, hoping it will give them, fulfill them in some way, and it didn't. حَتَّى جَاءَ أَمْرُ اللَّهِ, until the decision of Allah came. Meaning until your time on this earth was done. You ran after the wrong thing all this time, and then your time on this earth was done. وَغَرَّكُمْ بِاللَّهِ الْغَرُورُ. And the one who's so good at deceiving, he got you. He didn't get you by making you run after this world. He got you first by putting you in situations you shouldn't be in. That's where it all started. And it's all downhill from there. فَتَنْتُمْ أَنفُسَكُمْ وَتَرَبَّصْتُمْ وَارْتَبْتُمْ وَغَرَّتْكُمُ الْأَمَانِيُّ حَتَّى جَاءَ أَمْرُ اللَّهِ. This is the process of someone's downfall, an individual's downfall. The reason I wanted to share that with you is, I don't want to hear that on Judgment Day. I'm so glad that Allah let me know that this is the spiral that I have a danger of going down now. Now, instead of then. This is the gift of Allah in the Quran. That I can hear that, I can listen to that, and say, Ya Allah, don't let me go down that road. Ya Allah, don't make me from those who even take one of... And you have to identify, I have to identify, where am I on this road? Those of you that have a conscious heart, إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَذِكْرَى لِمَنْ كَانَ لَهُ قَلْبٌ. In this there's a powerful reminder for people who still have some heart left. If you have a heart left, you'll be able to identify, man, I'm already heading down the road of doubt. I'm pretty far down. I need to go take a reverse. I need to save myself before I end up on the wrong side of this wall. And so I conclude this khutbah with just a reminder from Allah of how we can reverse this. If you're going down the wrong road, how do you reverse this for yourself? أَلَمْ يَأْنِ لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَن تَخْشَعَ قُلُوبُهُمْ لِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ وَمَا نَزَلَ مِنَ الْحَقِّ. Isn't it yet time for believers that their hearts should be filled with awe, with the remembrance of Allah, and on account of what He sent down from the truth? I'm telling you, just sincerely, nobody else is around, nobody's going to preach to you, nobody's going to talk down to you, give you a lecture, it's not your mom, it's not your dad, it's not the imam, it's not me, it's nobody else. On your own time, with nobody around, open up the Quran and genuinely ask Allah to soften your heart, to be in awe of His word. Genuinely. Seek the refuge of Allah from the shaitan before you recite the Quran, and even if you don't know Arabic, pick up a good translation, listen to an explanation, and just let Allah Azza wa Jal soften your heart. Nobody else can soften it like He can. اعلموا أن الله يحيي الأرض بعد موتها. He says you had better know Allah can give life to the dead earth. If He can bring the earth back to life, what's your heart? He can do that. He has the power to do that. Don't give up on Allah. Don't give up on His book. Don't give up on the power of His book. His book is there to restore your state. This is why this book was revealed. لِيُخْرِجَكُم مِّنَ الظُّلُمَاتِ إِلَى النُّورِ. So He can bring you out of all kinds of darknesses back into light. That was the purpose of revelation. That purpose is still relevant. It's still true for you, it's still true for me. We're going to have dark times in our life. There's going to be times where our faith is super weak. We've disappointed ourselves, we've disappointed our loved ones. Most importantly, we've disappointed Allah. And that means we're in a state of darkness. But that does not mean Allah gives up on us. Allah has not given up on you, and Allah has not given up on me until we're still breathing. The fact that we're still breathing means He still wants us to have a chance. Because these lungs and this heart doesn't beat. These lungs don't function until He gives the command. No, he still gets a chance. She still gets a chance. She'll still come back. He's waiting for you and me to come back. He's waiting for you and me to come back. So let's make that sincere intention for ourselves that we're going to give Allah Azza wa Jalla a chance to restore our hearts. May Allah Azza wa Jalla protect especially our young generation and make them a source not of concern for the ummah, but of pride for this ummah and the strength of this ummah. Barakallahu li wa lakum fil Qur'an al-Hakim wa nafa'ani wa iyyakum bil ayati wa dhikr al-Hakim. الحمد لله وكفى والصلاة والسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى خصوصا على أفضلهم وخاتم النبيين محمد الأمين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. يقول الله عز وجل في كتابه الكريم